Wines recently made international news on the elite list of Decanter's World Wine Awards, and here with more on why Israel is such a fertile ground for fine wines is Jacob Ner David, founder of Jezreel Winery. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
With wine, my favorite thing to do on the show. So, first of all, tell us the history of the winery.
Sure. So I've had a thing for wine for all my life.
Even before you were 21?
Yes. And I knew that there was great wine out there, and that Israel was, thousands of years ago, a place of export of wine around the world. Came here 25 years ago, started my career in high tech and startups, and then I wanted to realize my dream of opening up a winery and creating what we call real Israeli wine, and focusing on innovation and as well as tradition. And we can talk about that through wine.
Yeah, so tell me how did it come about? Like, why, first of all, where is it located?
So we're in Kibbutz which is just about 15 minutes north of Nazareth. We overlook Nazareth.
Whoa,
so a more biblical residence.
Beautiful. So you feel like probably how all of our forefathers and mothers lived.
I mean, we've got that. We've got, there are old wine, it's called a gat, old sort of wine-making places all around us. The oldest commercial winery was found in Kibbutz, Jezreel, not far from us, recently. And then also we're right near where Jesus turned water to wine.
And we had a story last week about like a cup and like stone, like a container that they think. So, I mean, how fascinating, is that to be able to kind of be in the place where it happened and then to create great wines? And why would you say that area is such fertile ground?
Well, the north is obviously the breadbasket of Israel and has been, and the Jezreel Valley, has been for thousands of years, the sort of breadbasket. But as well as also was a place where everybody came through, right? Crusaders, everywhere, thousands of years, from Josephus, on forward. And I think naturally was both inland, so it wasn't right on the coast, but was close enough to the coast in terms of export, so it made sense. So there were large commercial wineries, and the Romans exported wine all over the Roman Empire. And then also the conditions for wine growing, for wine grape growing up north are good.
Amazing. You also offer tours and you do all different kinds of things. We know Shira Greneau comes on a lot.
Yes,
she talks about you.
We like her.
So tell us about what makes your wines unique, and let's pour some as we're talking, and what people, tourists get when they come visit you guys.
Oh yeah, sure.
You have to talk and open at the same time.
Yeah, I definitely will. I'm not so good at long distance pouring. I can make a competition out of that.
And I'm not good at not breaking things. So this is off to a beautiful relationship.
Yeah, so we're going to start off with what we call our Levanim, which means simply whites in Hebrew, Levanim. We're very straightforward in terms of how we look at things. And this is an example of two things. One, innovation. This is a blend that you won't taste anywhere else. It's 3 varietals, Gewürztraminer, French Colombard, and Sauvignon Blanc. And those we look at as sort of the ingathering of the exiles. And just like in terms of us, when we've come back and we're doing all kinds of cool things and all kinds of different businesses, but in wine as well, where we can take varietals from around the world, find out which are the ones that are most suited to both our climate and quite much our taste.
Yeah.
And when you look out and you see the summer, we're at this close of summer, but we're still summer. We wanted to develop a wine that was, as we say, bul, like perfectly for the Israeli summer. And we made a few different blends over the years. We started in the winery in 2012. That was our first vintage. As we've played around with this, we think now we've gotten to kind of where it should be.
You're kind of fine-tuning this. But given that you also come from high tech, explain how technology is innovating the wine industry, because you think of it as something that you want to do by hand, and you're thinking of like I Love Lucy, jumping on. I can't even tell you how many times I've done this on TV.
I've seen that one. Yeah.
So how is technology changing, and is it kind of changing the purity of the manual labor of harvesting grapes?
I think it's the reverse, actually, when you think about it, like the Intel clean room, or in other words, it's as pure as we can get. And when we look at the process of making wine, right, technology was always used, right? Wine making is a technological process, right? So thousands of years, technology was applied, and there were changes made, and perfecting the making of wine. And so today what we're doing is we're applying all the cool technologies and IoT and sensors and everything else to winemaking. At the end of the day, though, we're deeply connected to the land.
Right.
So at the end of the day, right, if the powers that be decide that this is not going to be a good year, it won't be a good year. We're in the end of the day,
it goes
we're
back
agriculture.
to biblical times. We had feast and famine, you know.
if we see 7 years of famine,
There you go. But we had the Jubilee last year, the fallow year, right?
So we're good for a while.
Crazy I know this, but I actually love it.
So we're good for a while. But yes, and in fact, Google a number of years ago invited us to do a presentation of what they called Innovating, the combination between technology and winemaking, and the innovation that's used in both. And actually, it's a funny thing, because the amount of time it takes to make a really good red wine, which we're going to get to in a moment, is essentially the time it takes to get to a really good tech product. In other words, this
is a rosé?
This is a rosé. So this is a kind of a segue to what we'll get to. But this rosé is from 4 varietals. It's from Carignan, which I'll tell you about in a moment, Syrah, and something called Argaman, which you've never had before. Probably you've never had before.
But it's really good.
And then we kind of add a little bit of French Colombard at the end. And our rosé is a result of our winemaking. What does that mean? It means we're making this wine. We take off from here, from the making of Adumim, our rosé. The way you make rosé is, how do you get this color, for example?
How do you? It's not the grapes.
It's not food coloring. And it's not different grapes, because it's the same grapes that go into here. Essentially, we pull off the juice very quickly in the beginning of the process, so the skins don't have the chance to affect the color, because a lot of the color comes from the skins. So don't have the chance to affect the color as much. And that's how you kind of achieve this sort of color.
Great. Right now, let's get to this, because I know we're running out of time. But let's, I want to, as you're pouring, I want to get to the fact that, the whole thing about turning water into wine and all this. I mean, the history. What's it like for you? I know you say you're from New York. I mean, to be here, do you feel kind of connected in some way to kind of what went on? Do these things that we hear about actually make sense as things that actually happened?
Winemaking is magical, right? So I'll believe anything.
Yeah.
Because the process is magical. You start off with a handful of grapes. You kind of let it sit around.
And then you get this, and then if we have enough of it, we're drunk.
Yeah, well,
or just enjoying a fine meal. But it's interesting, because it's true. Like, I remember you hear things about, like, what's a miracle, what illusion versus, like, making a cake is magic. Like, to take an ingredient in this, and, like, who figured out these grapes would make wine? Who figured out you mix these things, put it in an oven, and a cake is going to be made,
and the same way with a tech product, right? If you give 2 people the same computer, tell them to code something, it'll come out completely different. Give 2 different winemakers the same grapes, it'll come out different.
That's great.
So this, just want to point out to this.
We're running out of time, so this is the last l'chaim.
Yes, this is the last l'chaim. And this has in it Argaman, which is the only Israeli varietal. It's only grown in Israel, born and bred here in Israel.
Wow.
So.
Kol hakavod. Manifesting the dream. I love it. Thank you, and we will be right back after the break.